I've recently been in touch with some people who I used to spend a lot of time with, up to 52 years ago. From 1962 through 1973, we spent a lot of time together, and a lot of memories were jogged. Now, I don't know if you were lucky enough to have seen my YouTube video called Cameras I Have Known, but if you did, you'd know that I'd taken some pictures way back as early as 1960, I think it was. This was when we still lived in Omaha, or actually we're moving from Omaha to Meadow Lake. And in this box are some slides that I had taken, and they, as you can see from the bottom of the box, it's been sitting on the basement floor, and I'm quite concerned that possibly mildew is going to be a real problem here. We'll see. Ah, here it is. Omaha, Meadow Lake. This is going to go back about 55 years. Here's another one. Dory Lake. Now this one here is the one that I'm most concerned about. It was sitting on the very bottom of the box. And this one here is the one that I had actually wanted to see more than anything else. So I am opening it up now for the first time in many years, and I'm almost scared to look. You know, I like to keep my workshop videos as honest as possible here. So if I say you're seeing it along with me for the first time, then you actually are. Well, great news. There's no mildew on these slides. Now I do have one problem, and that is that the scanner that I have will not accept transparencies. So I've got to try and figure out how am I going to get these slides digitized so that I can get them into my computer and onto this video I'm making and onto my Facebook page. So I'm going to try and make some sort of a device using my macro lens, and I think it's going to work out. Now I don't know why, but for some reason I feel it necessary to explain why so many of my videos have all that infernal ticking going on. Well, it's either this thing here, or if I'm in this area here, it's this one. Sorry about that. I want to try and kill two birds with one stone here. This is the macro lens. Now, the other day I got a couple of really cheap slave flashes from Amazon, and I want to be able to make a bracket that will hold these flashes in exactly the right place so that when I get it set at the right distance, everything's just perfect. And now I know that the slides will not be illuminated from this side. They will somehow be illuminated from the back. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. Actually, I've got some ideas. Anyway, we'll see what we can do here. Okay, that's 6 1/4 inches to the center of that hole. Okay, if I make the hole right there and make it a bit elongated so that I can fine adjust the focusing, it should be okay. Now when it comes to making square holes, this thing is the cat's meow. click, eh? Okay, I think it's pretty obvious. Little bolt will go in like that. Camera will screw onto it, and then the whole thing can be slid back and forth a little. Like as I said, so I can fine-tune the focusing. Be sort of a poor man's focusing rail. Okay, what I've done now is I've put this nail at the right focal length for the maximum closest focusing distance of that lens. And it is just below the center of the visible frame area, which is about the same size as a slide. And what I'll do now is I'll just try it out. And the idea is that I should be able to put the nail just below the subject. Well, you'll see what I'm going to do. Now I want to talk camera talk for a minute. You know, for people that are interested in cameras and photography, this will make sense. If you're not, it won't. Now, you're probably wondering, why is it that I've got all that bright flash going off? Why don't I just crank up the ISO and, open up the lens as far as it'll go? Well, as you know, the more the lens is opened up, the worse the depth of field. Now this lens has the ability to crank down to f57. That's right, f57, when it's at its closest focusing distance. Now that gives me really good depth of field. So in order to take advantage of that, I have to have lots of light. That's why I've got all three flashes going off at the same time, and about 6 inches away from the subject. And you'll see here, it works really well. Now I had to do quite a bit of experimenting around before I actually made this bracket. And that's how come I know that those two flashes at the front there have to be about 3 to 4 inches away from the subject to illuminate everything just right. I started out with them about a couple of feet back, and I just kept working closer and closer and closer until I got it just right. Now I found that if I have everything at full power, all three flashes at full power, and the lens cranked down to f57 and 100 ISO, I get a perfect exposure. Well, okay, we know that the bracket for holding the flashes just right for close-ups works, but what I really want to do is get my slide copier going. And what I'm hoping to do here is to show you a few of the slides that I'm planning on copying and getting onto my Facebook and into this video. I hope you can see them here. Well, this may or may not work. Let's give it a whirl here. That was the year just before Camp Carmel started. I'll explain that one later. And there's one of the many beautiful Dory Lake sunsets. That was Camp Carmel the very first year after all three cabins were up. And there's Jerry Dunn. I think that was the first year as well. And the Dory Tower. And that was the year before Camp Carmel started. That was at Beaupre Creek. Dad and I went camping. We were still living in Meadow Lake at that time. And there's Maury Palmer and Trixie and my boat. And Dory Lake was always stormy. That was the first year. You can see Laverne's Chris Craft out there. And there's Bernie's boat off to the right. And just more Dory stuff. That's Michelle Lodge, I believe. Another beautiful Dory sunset. I sure hope I can digitize these nicely. That was a little boy that lived with us. Paul Tossig was his name. And that's not too clear, but that's in our kitchen. when Grandma and Grandpa came to visit us at Dory Lake. That's Bernie Palmer's boat. And that is Breakup on Dory Lake. Guarantee you people are going to want copies of that one. That was 1962. Well, I can hardly believe it, but this video is just over 11 minutes long already. So I better cut it off here. Tomorrow I'll start working on the slide copier. We'll start on video number 2. In the meantime, I'll try and get this one out on the web so people can see it.